15 feet.
15 feet? All right. Any other guesses? So that's a pretty good guess. So they actually, they measured it back in the 1800s. They used a method where they just tied a piece of string to a rock. They threw that rock in the water. However much string it took, that's how deep it was, right? They got 437 feet deep over here. To put that in perspective, see this tree right here? It is 110 feet tall. Imagine 4 of those stacked up on top of each other. Now, they did not remeasure it for about 90 years, but when they did, they used a different method this time. They actually sent a college student out and had a little boat over here, gave him a giant pole. He stuck the pole right down the center. Turns out we were just a tiny bit off in our first measurement, just a tiny bit. Turns out it's only about 12 feet deep. That's the deepest point over here. So what had happened, if you look at the surface of the water, it does look very calm, right? Right below that surface, there is a very strong underwater current. So when they were using that rocking string method, that current took the rocking string all the way down towards our cave mouth. They were measuring the length of our river, not the depth. Now, another little cool piece of history. So back in the American Civil War, when the Confederacy pulled out of Bowling Green, they poisoned all the drinking water around here, except for our little river down here. So what better place for a medic camp than right here in the valley? Now it served both sides of the war, first with the Confederacy, but after the Union sent about 100,000 troops over here, it forced them out, and the Union had control of the cave and the valley for the rest of the war. Now both sides have left effects on our cave that we can still see to this day, and I'll show you once we get inside. Any questions so far? All right, let's start heading down the cave. Now you might have also seen this in the parking lot. There's a building up here on the left. That is actually our old walnut factory. They used to use the walnut wood. They would make toys.
Una bola.
Welcome to our cave mouth. This cave mouth is the largest cave mouth inside the Mississippi, about 150 feet wide. Now our history starts in Native American times. They used our location not as a settlement location, but as a hunting ground. The reason we know this is because we have found arrowheads and spearheads in our cave. These spearheads are about the size of my hand. They were used to hunt things like woolly mammoths and mastodons from way back in the day. Now, the reason they didn't settle down here was because they knew our valley down here was prone to flooding. In a fit of rage, burnt down the entire property, and the second time, it was just purely by accident. Now, they decided to sell the property to the Perkins family. The Perkins family opened up our very own nightclub over here. This nightclub was very successful because we were America's first air-conditioned nightclub because it stays 55 degrees all year round. Now, also, we have National Road right above us. That used to be the main road in and out of Bowling Green, so we had a lot of foot traffic down here. But unfortunately, in the 1960s, this is when rock and roll started to creep up. Mr. Perkins didn't like rock and roll too much. In fact, he called it the devil's music and said it will never be played in our cave. He kind of thought rock and roll was the fad and it wouldn't last. We all know rock and roll wasn't a fad and it lasted for quite a while. Now, unfortunately, combine that with the new highway system they also put in, took all the foot traffic off this road. Unfortunately, combine those two factors, and unfortunately led to the nightclub having to shut its doors. When that happened, our property laid abandoned for 30 years, and we became Bowling Green's biggest illegal landfill. And guys, when I tell you, they dumped everything they could down here, washers, dryers, oil drums. We found a whole car cave. went on for 30 years, up until some of the pressers from WKU purchased the property. They then donated to WKU, who led a cleanup operation that took a whole decade to get it looking the way it does now. They had to pull 55 tons, or 12 elephants stacked up on top of each other, that sheer weight of garbage out of our cave. It took 10 years. Especially, you see this black metal staircase? That is actually the old entrance and exit to our cave back in the nightclub era. That cave path you all walked on, that bridge you walked on, did not exist during the nightclub. So they would tell you, if you're going to drink down here, you better bring a trusted friend of yours that you trust and carry you back up the side of this cliff over here. It's a long and perilous journey. And most of the stuff you see, like I said, is the original. That chandelier is the original, built in the 1930s. Also, our little bar over here is the original. There's actually a stream that runs behind it, and that is where they'll keep their alcohol to keep it cold. Alright, so I got here